what's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Wishing you guys the happy first episode of the year 2022. 2022 is here, and my God, am I excited for this year because we thought 2021 was a big year for the podcast. Ooh, 2022 is going to be even better. If you guys are watching the podcast or listening, if you hear me, I'm a little bit nasally, or if I look really tired on the podcast, I am just a little bit under the weather. I've been under the weather the past couple of days before shooting this podcast, so please forgive me on that one. But we have a great episode coming up for you today. But first, our sponsors. First is Phoenix Fitness. It's New Year's resolution time, baby. So a lot of people, you know, one of the biggest resolutions ever is to go back to the gym, get in tip-top shippity shape, get the arms big like Arnold, lift the weights, yeah, you know, or just be in the best physical shape possible. So, of course, you want to hit the gym, lift the weights, run the treadmill, hit the Stairmaster, hit the bike, hit the elliptical, go swimming. Just do whatever you can to achieve your fitness goals. But one of the best ways to help out with that is to recover right, prepare right, to make sure that you are able to achieve those goals. That's where Phoenix Fitness comes in with different pre-workouts, both stim and stim-free. Even though I'm sick, you guys know I have all the energy in the world, so I always use the stim-free stuff. Different B-cell recovery compounds, creatines, proteins for your morning, night, and directly after your workout, multivitamins, anything you might need to achieve your fitness goals. Phoenix Fitness has for you. Our listeners get 15% with the code MSOTD at fnxfit.com. Link description below. Thank you, Phoenix Fitness. Second off is custom debuts. Now, for me, I like to have all this crazy stuff on my walls. You know, I got the skate decks here, the 30 Seconds of Mars American flag back there. I've got posters up here, Ice 9 Kills, Rise Against, Fall in Reverse, another Rise Against. And I like to make sure, you know, kind of cool with posters and stuff. I like that stuff. So with custom debuts, they let me customize my own poster. So all I have to do is I have to give them an artist and then either a song or an album. And they will make a specific custom poster for me or for you, whatever one you want. And you get to design it however you want. They will come back to you with a proof, and you get to make as many edits as possible until you're ready to go and be like, hey, we're good to go. Let's make it happen. And they will send to you either in like, you know, your standard poster kind of like paper or they can send you as a canvas print, or even better, as an aluminum poster. It's a metal poster, yo. So get a metal album or a metal song and a metal poster. Why not? It's a great idea to spruce up your, you know, office or your rec room or your man cave or literally anything. Just makes it look a lot cooler. Our listeners and viewers of the podcast get 10% off using the code CPP10 at Custom Views checkout. So link description below. Thank you for that. Now to our feature presentation. Back in August of 2020, the longest episode I ever did was with Victoria K out of Australia. Now that we're heading into 2022, okay, the episode isn't as long as 3 hours, but it is just as good, and we're doing it again. So we talked to Victoria all about getting back up on stage, mentality of getting back up on stage, some of the stories that she's experienced getting back up on stage, and of course, they've got new music in the works. We talk about the idea of the Concept Squared album. What could that mean? You're going to want to listen to the podcast to find out. Are you guys ready to welcome back Victoria K to the podcast? Because I know I am. Let's go! Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. You know I love to bring back bands and artists that I've had on the podcast before, catch up with them, see what's been going on since we last talked. And you know what? If you miss them the first time, you're not going to want to miss them this time. The last time I talked to this artist, it was the middle of the pandemic in 2020. And we went for, God, I think it was like 3 hours at that point because we just would not stop talking. It was fun as all hell. This time, will probably be a little bit shorter. Trust me on that one. But will it be just as fun? Absolutely. So please welcome back to the podcast all the way from Australia, Victoria K. So Victoria, welcome back.
Hi. Thank you for having me back. It's been like a hot minute. It's been a whole year. And we're still in the same situation that we were in last time, kind of. But, you know, it's good to be back doing interviews and stuff again, talking to people. So thank you so much.
Well, again, thanks for being on. And yeah, I mean, if it's been a little bit over a year since we last talked, but it feels like a lot longer time has passed. But then again, we went through this whole entire thing called the pandemic and people getting the virus, and it's just different things happening all across the world where it feels like the past like year and a half has spanned like 5 or 6 years.
It does. It does. It feels like it went for ages. And like this year and last year as well, it feels like it's the same. Like it doesn't feel like it's 2021, and like next year doesn't feel like 2022. Like it all feels like it's become one long year, and I'm kind of over it, but it's okay. We're getting through it, and we're like, I know with our band, we're back out on the road, which is really good. It's really good to see, and hopefully we can get back overseas soon.
Say hopefully you can, because I remember we last talked, it was, you know, with tours, concerts, live shows for anybody, it was pretty much just no one knew what the hell was going on. No one knew when they were coming back. And all of a sudden, especially here in the States, we started seeing stuff coming back like April and May, June, especially July 2021. But over in Australia, I was talking to a bunch of different artists as well, and everyone was just waiting. It's like, okay, we're tired of all of a sudden, you know, we have these shows planned, and then boom, we're going back into lockdown, and shows get canceled, shows get postponed. Just this consistent waiting game, this consistent disappointment of everything that was happening with, we've got these live shows planned, we're almost here, and postponed.
I know, because I know with these shows that we had planned them for like July, August, and we had to post because of the lockdown. We got locked down like around that time. It was a snap lockdown as well. Just remember that 7-day snap lockdown. It became 3 months. Ooh. We're living our best lives. But no, really grateful that we got to like come out and still do these shows. And in a way, it kind of worked out because now we're touring during summer, and like more people want to go out and see shows during summer, and like school's finished now as well. So like people will be more inclined to come and see shows. So it actually worked out for the better, if that makes sense.
It's kind of like a bad situation, just turning around and making the most out of it, because the shows got postponed, but you were going to be ended up performing these shows and playing these live shows when it was more conducive to do so, like in an outdoor setting. You know, the weather is warmer and people have more tendency to go out and do things because, hey, they don't have to take a jacket with them. They don't have to brave the cold. No, they don't have to do anything. It's just, put on a t-shirt, put on some shorts, you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. So it worked out for the best. And, you know, we've got some more shows planned for January. January and February, because they both start with J and I got confused. Anyway, so we've got some more shows planned for January, February of next year. And because of these shows that we did in New South Wales and Canberra, we've had more people come up to us and be like, hey, do you want to play here? And I'm like, yes, put me on as many shows as you can. I just want to perform. And especially with Victoria K, because before this, we hadn't really performed much because of COVID. We got shut down. So, you know, it's kind of like we're kind of new to this performing scene, even though we've all been in other bands before. But as Victoria K as a unit, it's pretty new and exciting.
And it's kind of cool that, you know, you're playing live shows and all of a sudden you're having all these other people like, hey, you want to play this? You want to play this one? And by taking this, you know, a lot of this time during the pandemic too, because again, now that we're just getting out of this stuff, especially with Australia, you're playing live shows again. There are a lot of bands that are still trying to get back out there. A lot of bands that went into the pandemic and were not able to survive it based on, you know, maybe monetary reasons, maybe just, you know, things just weren't working out or people want to go different directions. Just a lot of things that were caused by this long off period where all of a sudden you have a chance to play as many live shows as possible. And with Victoria K, really get that whole entire performance aspect down for yourselves while everyone has this massive want to get out and go and do something and go and see live shows. You're just taking this opportunity and running with it at this point.
Oh, exactly. That's what we're all saying. We're all saying, well, you know, everyone wants to come out. Like people that haven't even, like a lot of people that haven't even like seen any of these bands before, they just want to go out and experience live music. Like we experienced that in our Melbourne show at Stay Gold. Like there were just a lot of people that just wanted to go and see live music. And like I was talking to them after the show and they're like, we don't even know any of the bands that are playing. We just want to like be out and just see like local musicians and stuff. And we're very grateful for those people who are coming to support like local artists and musicians, because without them we wouldn't have any shows. And that's how it kind of worked in our favor, since everyone wants to go out now, if that makes sense. Like now's the best time to be playing shows.
It does make a lot of sense, because even that happened a lot over here in the US, where all of a sudden a lot of bands, especially like in April, May, and June of 2021, where now people are able like to go out and see live shows, where they're starting to happen again. It's becoming more of an acceptable thing. And it was a lot of those like really big bands. They had not had anything planned up until like later festival season came around in late August, September, October, and then had tours planned for that. But it was a lot of the smaller up and coming bands had that time to really shine, where all of a sudden, yeah, these places have been dying to have live shows happen because they've been shut down for over a year. They haven't made any money off of this stuff. All of a sudden, you're having all these smaller, more local bands, some regional bands play. And next thing you know, people are showing up in droves. These places are selling out every single night for bands that, you know, in 2019 would maybe sell out half the room, if that. It's because people wanted to go and see live music, and these bands took the opportunity, and a lot of them grew substantially from that.
Yeah, we found that too. And like we found here, especially in Melbourne has that really like flourishing music scene. Like nearly every other night there's bands playing in Melbourne, and like we're getting more shows in Melbourne too, which is beautiful because it's where we're from, and like I'd love to play more here. I noticed like as well with the bands that I used to play in Melbourne, like we didn't get as much of a crowd as what we're getting now because everyone's just dying to get out. So I think, yeah, a lot of us have taken the opportunity, and like, you know, as much as it was a bad situation, like you have to make the most of it. And I'm glad we did make the most of it, because, you know, this tour wouldn't have been so successful. Well, the first leg, we've only really done the first leg of the tour. There's more to come, but we wouldn't have been so successful if it wasn't for the lockdown.
Oh, absolutely. So it's just, again, taking the opportunities that comes, and instead of taking a look at it as a full-on negative, it's, okay, how can we turn this negative into a positive? Yeah, you could have been touring back in July and August, but instead, you know, snap lockdown, go from 7 days to 3 months. Now you get to tour, and it's more in the warmer months in Australia, the summer months in Australia. So it kind of does work out in a way. Instead of just doing the, oh, woe is me, it's like, okay, how can we take this and make this the best for the band, and really make it so that, hey, when people go out and see live shows, they're going to go see Victoria K because we're here. They want to go and see a live show. We're going to provide them a service. We're going to provide them an experience that they have not had for over a year and a half at this point.
Exactly. And I think that way you just got to have that mindset of, you know, I'm just going to make the most of the situation. And like you said, it's not like, oh, woe is me, because, you know, it's not. And like now we're out, we've got to make the most of the opportunities that we have when we're out. If we do go back in again, we don't really know. Well, like they said that we're not going to go back into lockdown, but no one really knows, to be honest. It's always changing. So now we want to take opportunities to do photos and to do videos as well. Like just do the most that we can while we're out of lockdown before we go back in. So then like once we're in lockdown, we have all this stuff ready to be released.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, it's, if that does happen again, hopefully it doesn't happen again. Hopefully it never happens again. But we all know how that goes. They say one thing, they end up doing another thing, because that's just the way life is at this point. However, if you have all that material at the ready, then when you're going to be able to, if that happens again, again, just taking a look at other bands in the area, in Australia, all around the world, everything, especially Australia, though. It's a lot of bands that might not be taking that opportunity. It's all of a sudden something like a lockdown happens again. What do they have? All of a sudden, you have all this new stuff to release, all this brand new stuff that people are going to get able to have a chance to latch onto. Plus, they saw you play live, so there's already a connection that's going to be made there anyway. It's you're taking that time once again and preparing for it if it does happen. If it doesn't happen, then hey, you still have all this stuff to release.
Exactly. Well, Essentia, we released Essentia during lockdown last year. And like because of that, we were able to do these shows, and that's why like we've got a bunch of material. We've just been in the studio doing our second album, and we're like hopefully going to release that maybe next year. But we've got to get all the other content ready first. So because of lockdown, like a lot of the stuff was postponed and pushed back. But that's why we're taking all the opportunities we can now. So hopefully next year we can put that out there for people to see. Well,
hopefully we'll get to that a little bit later on, but especially with the fact that one thing I do want to focus on early on is the fact that, again, live shows, you're able to finally go out and play them once again. So when you finally got the full go-ahead for these shows for this first leg of the tour that happened in mostly throughout November, and I think a little bit in December of 2021, if I'm correct on that, because, of course, my mind sees my eyes, everything. I see a bunch of stuff pop up on Instagram all the time. There's sometimes some things get scrambled, but I know I kept seeing your stuff in your live shows and tours, pictures kept posting up on Instagram, on your story, all over the place. I know what happened in November. Think something happened in December. I'm not 100% sure, so please If I'm wrong, please correct me on that. However, when it came time to finally get back out on the road, when it's like these shows are going to be a full go, especially after everything you had gone through since the pandemic, the cancellations, the postponements, the snap lockdowns, what was it like to finally have that moment where the end of this like waiting period was finally here?
Oh, it was amazing. Like, we were like, oh, we're actually going. We're actually going to do this now. Oh my God, yay. But it was all the rehearsals, like, once we found out, oh, this is actually going ahead, like, we were rehearsing like nearly every week, you know, getting everything together again. But like the whole time we were planning it, like it was going to happen, like we weren't anticipating lockdown. So, but yeah, once we actually found out that we were going to do it, we're like, oh wait, we actually got to sound good now. We actually got to put everything together because we hadn't rehearsed for so long because of like all the restrictions. So as soon as we got like the information that we could actually rehearse again, that live music could, you know, happen again, we were like, okay, we got to get in there. We got like I think around 5 rehearsals before these shows, which is like nearly every week from when we got the notifications. But yeah, we were just so excited, like just to travel and just to, you know, just kind of get out of the state, get out of Victoria as well, and play some shows that we've never like played. We've never played in New South Wales before, never played in Canberra before, but just to get out there, we were like ecstatic, super stoked.
I mean, that's just fantastic to the point where it's just, okay, you know, this energy just gets brought right back into you when we're finally able to do this. Oh, wait, we have to sound good now. We got to work on this. Like,
I know,
no.
like, we already knew the songs because we played all of the Essentia album, but it's just because we hadn't played together for a long time and it was just getting the synergy back. Like we sounded really good actually in the rehearsals. They were like, oh, this sounds better than what we thought it would. We were like surprised. But it was like, even in the shows, like as we were playing shows live, we got more of that synergy and it just improved as we were playing, you know, and we were just glad that we could deliver something that we were proud of every night. And that's what we were working towards.
Well, especially with those rehearsals, a lot of it's just going to be I mean, when it comes to playing these songs, playing this music, you guys can be just playing it perfectly, just really on key, tight as possible. But when it comes to a live setting, of course, you're going to want to take that rehearsal time because you want to make sure you're in sync with everybody else. You're going to want to make sure that everything is, you know, on key when everyone's just like parting up. It's like, yeah, we got this. Not missing out on anything. Everyone's kind of got their bearings once again so that when you get out to perform that first live show, yes, there's going to probably be some hiccups here and there because it's the first live show and, you know, almost 2 years at that point. However, it's a lot more comfortable instead of just like, okay, we got to do this right now. Definitely. What do I got to do?
Definitely. But like as well, we found with us, because we have all the orchestra and stuff in our music, we play with tracks because we don't have a keyboard player. But we found that makes it a lot easier as well, like because we have the tracks to keep us in time. And we have like, they keep us in key. So we found, you know, that we were rehearsing with those and it made everything a lot easier. But of course, there's always going to be like little hiccups and stuff like that's just bound to happen. Like it's not going to sound the same every night. But we got to the stage where we could deliver something that we were really happy with every night. And like, even after every show, like, you know, I'd go, well, what do I need to work on for the next show? And it's all just a learning experience. And I think also that as well, like if we all supported each other. So none of us felt like we did something wrong on stage as well. So I think it's just the people around us as well that made it easier to play live.
That's a good thing that you have those people around as well. Plus, like you said, the backing tracks, being able to kind of keep you guys on time, on everything, that does help out a lot, for especially with a lot of the bands I've talked to. It just helps out a lot where, even when it comes to backing tracks, some people are really weird about it, but if it's going to end up making the live experience that much better, why not use them?
Yeah, well, I know a lot of bands use them. Like I saw Camelot live a few years ago. They had tracks as well for their synth and their choirs and their orchestra and stuff. And it just makes it sound a lot fuller and richer as well. I know Carmeria that we toured with as well, they use tracks. And we just find it works better just for the type of music that we're delivering because they're also a symphonic metal band. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. You want to have that, you know, symphony vibe behind it as well, especially as a symphonic metal band. But when it comes to a lot of other bands as well, especially what you're talking about where you want to put on, you know, a great performance every single night. And if all of a sudden you remove those backing tracks and you don't have anyone to really play along with those, then those songs are not going to sound the same. The power of those songs are not going to be the same. If you had someone back that was able to, produce these, like, a keyboard player, you had like a full orchestra behind you, that's a different story. But you want to be able to give people and the audience the best performance possible. And if backing tracks are going to make that performance the best performance as possible, by all means, do it.
Yeah, exactly. I've never found anything wrong with it. And even because we were playing most of the songs from Essentia, as well as like one new song from the new record that we're working on. Ooh. We want to make it like, we want to deliver it like it's the album. We want it to sound like the album live. And that's what we were kind of striving for the whole time. And the tracks make it sound like the album, because it's all the orchestra and stuff that you're missing live that we can have there.
Yeah, and once you have them, it's just, again, it adds to the whole entire energy of the show, where if you have that orchestra in there, it's going to give off a completely different emotion than if you don't have it there. It's going to give off this grander, more epic style feel, kind of like a theatrical way where you're watching this big, watching this big movie, this big old blockbuster production where it's the big, climax scenes happen. You're just like, oh my God. It's like, that's what you need those backing tracks for, to make that live show feel, have that, oh my God moment.
But we try to make it like theatrical and stuff, because that's the type of music that we're going for. Like, I know I get a lot of inspiration from like Nightwish, who are very theatrical, Camelot, the same. Like, it kind of makes sense. But yeah, just really grateful to have those. And James, our drummer, he's the one that's in control of all the tracks. And I'm glad he knows what's going on with all the tech stuff, because I'm not the best at all the tech stuff. So he's really good at setting all that up. Yeah, you always need a tech guy in the band, we found, someone that knows what's going on. Because the rest of us, we're just here to play. You can do that. That's your job. Yeah, so he's really good at that, actually. But yeah, he's in control of the tracks. And yeah, it works out. It works out really well.
Just let him deal with the techie stuff. We're going to deal with the, performance stuff, stuff.
They're gonna play. You can, but he's really good at that. We also have our manager who comes with us. He's good at the tech stuff as well. Like, he helps set up our whole EMI system, because we all use in-ear monitors when we play live, so we all get different mixes. So I have my voice really loud, and everything else is kind of quiet. And then Julia, she has the guitars really loud, and it makes it so much easier singing with in-ear monitors, because you can hear yourself. It sounds like I'm singing in the recording studio. I found it better than trying to sing over a band. Singing over a band is a nightmare when you just have your earplugs in and like everything's just loud on stage. But yeah, in-ear monitors, which James, he knows how to use them really well. It's really, really helped us a lot. And we rehearse with them too. So it's kind of like we've done a sound check in rehearsal.
Yeah, and it's like I think honestly, the more you use those types of equipment that you're going to end up using on stage, like in a rehearsal setting, the more comfortable you're going to be with them, the more used to you're going to be with them, and you're going to be able to curate the live show even better when you practice with them, because then you have a little bit of an extra knowledge behind them. You have a little bit of this extra practice with them. Hell, I remember when I was playing, when I was playing sports as a kid, there's sometimes it's like, play soccer over here or football over in Europe or whatever we want to call it. Like, wear the shin pads, like even for practice, sometimes we wouldn't wear them, and all of a sudden game time would come around, and yeah, we weren't going to tackles as hard because we didn't want to mess up our shins, but that was because, we didn't have them in practice. All of a sudden our coach was just like furious at us. And after a week, it was like, we basically were going out there and just like tackling people as hard as possible. It's like, yeah, we finally got this. It's all because we had to put if we're going to practice, if we're going to play with these, let's practice with them.
With the shin pads. Like, it's like you have to practice how you're going to perform it. So like, even at home, like I do this more in my own time. Like, I practice what I'm going to say, and I kind of have like a not a script, but I kind of know when I'm going to speak, and everyone else knows when I'm going to speak, and I kind of know the vague gist of what I'm going to say. But yeah, it's like similar to what you were saying. You have to practice how you're going to perform, because then you'll be comfortable on stage, and it's like you've performed it 10 times before you've been on stage. It just makes it a lot easier. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like you said, being able to do something like that where, when you're going to say, you're going to have times when you're going to speak, you don't have exactly everything you're going to want to say out there, but you have like this like base outline of what you want to say. So you can always kind of change up. You can always kind of flow with it and work with that. Like with the podcast, I don't practice these podcasts beforehand. Everything here is just basically off the cuff. I've got my preview sheets in front of me. I've got all my homework done. But when it comes to just like talking and just seeing where this goes, I've got no plan for this. Whatever happens, happens. But that's how I have conversations with everybody.
Yeah, well, it's like on stage as well, like things happen in the audience and you can react to it. But if you kind of know what's going on and the band knows what's going on, it makes everything flow easier. Like I always make sure I announce certain songs. And if something happens in the audience, like, oh, I pick it up. Like, hey, how you doing? I try to talk to the audience. Like, because I haven't performed as much with Victoria K. Like throughout these shows, I was getting better at the audience interaction as well and making that connection. Someone who's really good at that, I found on tour, was the singer from Come Area, Jordan. He is an amazing frontman, awesome frontman. Like he's so charismatic on stage. It's like a character. And then he comes off on stage and is just like a normal person. You're like, oh okay. What's going on here? But yeah, like I found that I got better at speaking on stage too, like because I had my pointers, but then, you know, from seeing other bands and then kind of interacting with the audience, you know, I just improved on it and it made it more like a personal conversation, kind of like what you do on your podcasts, you know.
Yeah, you're going to get to some point where all of a sudden someone's going to dress up in a giant inflatable Pikachu costume at your live show, and you're going to have to acknowledge it at some point.
If I don't acknowledge it, then there's something wrong there. There's something going on there. But yeah, like if the crowd's going off, then yeah, you have to give them recognition. And you know, if they're a great crowd, then you have to thank them, because if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be doing shows. So you've got to, it's always about the audience. It's about the relationship that the audience has with the band and the artist. And even the synergy between the musicians on stage make that audience-artist relationship stronger. And that's kind of what we were working on while we were doing the shows.
Oh yeah, that artist chemistry between all the members of the band really does help out in a live setting. And we did mention this band before we started recording, but I've got to bring him up, and you might be like, why do you need to bring him up? Because I really want to see him live, but I haven't yet. I got to bring him up. The synergy between the guys in Ice Nine Kills is something you really are going to want to watch. Even Motionless in White as well. It's just, every time I go see those bands live, it's just, I mean, I'm in the pit most of the time, so it's like I'm not necessarily watching the full stage performance, but when I get to actually like have to take a break, you know, like, oh, it's a slower song coming on, or oh, someone got knocked down the pit and we're just trying to help them up. It's like, okay, I can finally take a look and see the amount of crazy just chemistry that's going on between them, the different movements, how everything flows together. How all of a sudden, you know, someone gets bumped into and it's just like they play it off like it's nothing. The crowd feeds off of that chemistry, off of that energy, and next thing you know, that's where the crowd goes nuts. That's where we have, you know, half the whole entire room in a giant circle pit, and me in the middle with my hat off going like, yeah, because it's fun as hell. And the band drives a lot of that.
It does. And like, because like with Victoria K, we haven't played heaps of shows live. Like we know each other really well and we're really good friends, but we haven't played heaps of shows live because of COVID. We were kind of finding that throughout the shows, and we found by the last show, it was like we'd played 100 shows together before, and like even like reviews that we got from, that was in Canberra, the reviews that we got in Canberra, they were like, the relationship that they had on stage, it was really energetic. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want. And that's what, like, because Ice Nine Kills, they would have been playing together for like how many years?
Well,
years.
I mean, the band's been around for years, but the current iteration of the lineup has only been a full thing since mid 2019. Still
longer than what we've been playing live shows for, considering COVID. But like, you know, their relationship on stage is very natural, and like that's kind of what we were working on during the shows. And just to see that live, like even like I saw Camelot and Evanescence, like to see those bands do that live, it's just incredible, and it's just really fun experience.
Oh, it absolutely is. I've never seen Camelot live. I've seen Evanescence play live one time, and I didn't even go to see Evanescence. Of Mice and Men was supposed to open for them, and I was all set, ready to go see Of Mice and Men. Like, this is going to be awesome. Aaron Pauley got sick the day beforehand, so they had to drop off of the one show that I was going to see him. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Why?
God damn it, why?
So then it's July in Milwaukee. It's hot. It's humid. It's like 85 degrees outside at night. And there's no air conditioning in the venue. The venue is packed because this is like the first time people have seen Evanescence play live in Milwaukee in like 7-8 years at that point. And Evanescence played an extra. They were only playing an hour and a half set. They played 2 hours. The band chemistry was fantastic, but this was something where I'm like, I never really was like a big Evanescence fan, but I have so much respect for Amy Lee after that show because she went full force, full out on every aspect of that show. Yeah. And it was hot, humid. So like people were like, I thought people were passing out in the crowd left and right. That's what I thought was happening because of just how hot and humid it was. She was up on stage like it was nothing.
Yeah, she's a great performer, Amy. Like I saw her on a synthesis tour, so it wasn't as heavy as the Evanescence stuff, but like the regular Evanescence stuff.
Yeah.
But like her stage presence, like I aspire to kind of be like that. Ever since I was like 8, 9 years old, I was like, I want to be Amy Lee. I'm going to become this person. But, you know, I've taken a lot of inspiration from her, like from her live performances. And I noticed as well when she was on stage, she doesn't speak much. She kind of just lets her aura do most of the work, which is, I think, is beautiful as well. It's very like that stage presence that she has is something that I look up to a lot, and I have a lot of respect for her for that. And I do try to take pointers from her and like from other artists that I listen to.
Well, it's like whenever you take a look at a different artist and try and take pointers from them and try and take inspiration from them, using Amy Lee as an example, she doesn't speak as much, you know, in between songs. She will. And sometimes, like when I saw her, she's like, you know, it is hot. I'm gonna give it my all. Though it's like everyone's like, okay, we respect you for actually like trying to go out and give it your all, which she did. And I mean, I have a whole newfound respect for her after that. But you take a look at why she's able to do that. It's just, again, like you said, this aura, this kind of mystique that's around her that allows her to do something like that because the energy is driven from this whole entire just vibrato that just comes off her. However, there are other artists that you're going to end up having to take inspiration from to see kind of what works for them. Like with Nightwish, maybe with someone like Hailstorm as well, just to really take a look at maybe like how Lizzie Hale can command a crowd and kind of figure out how they're able to do it, reverse engineer it, and then really use it to your advantage with your own style and how it's going to be the best for you.
Exactly. Like I also have to do what's most comfortable on stage for me. Like speaking wise, I do get a little bit anxious speaking wise on stage. I prefer singing because I know I can sing well, but like I haven't had as much experience speaking. But yeah, I just kind of got to like experiment or change it up a bit every night, see what happens and just see what works for me. And like the audience is really good for that because I can see how the audience feeds back onto me. And even like when we were playing that one new song from the new album, like it's good when you do that. Like we're planning on performing some more for the next shows. Like we can see what the audience likes and what they dislike. And that's what I use a lot when I'm like experimenting with new songs or experimenting with like speaking and stuff.
And again, it's great to experiment with that, and you'll get to see what works, what doesn't work, and you're able to go forward and, you know, potentially try out something that could be, if you think about it now, if you thought about this crazy idea now, it's like, okay, this idea doesn't make any sense. Why did I try it out? All of a sudden, you keep going up on stage, you keep going live. All of a sudden, 2 months later, you're thinking about it. It's like, but it might work out if we do it after this song because the way the audience reacts. All of a sudden, you do something that's completely crazy, and next thing you know, it becomes like this well-known thing that Victoria Kay does after a certain song because it just became the coolest thing ever.
Well, we haven't played enough shows to experiment with things like that, but that's like, we're working towards like getting our kind of a thing going on, like Cameria. I keep talking about them, but we toured with them, and you know they're great. They're a great band. He's very theatrical on stage. Jordan, he's very like, it's like a different person. It's crazy. I was so nervous to meet them because of how he was on stage. And then I met them and they're just like big children. I love it. They're awesome. But like they have like their things that they say every night, like the way he holds himself, his persona, it's very, you know, it's him, you know, like when it's him speaking. And that's kind of what I'm trying to work on now.
And it's something where one thing I've noticed when it comes to rock and metal, especially when it comes to like those crazy, eccentric, just very theatrical, just very incredible frontmen where it seems like they have larger than life personalities. All of a sudden you get to meet them like after the show. And for the most part, now this isn't everybody, but for the most part, they're just like the most normal people ever. They just want to chill and have a good time. Take a look at a Cannibal Corpse or a corpse guy from Cannibal Corpse. I mean, you think this guy would be the most intimidating, just, you would not want to talk to this guy ever.
Like beat me up.
Yeah, but in his spare time, he plays the claw machine at like different like bars and just wherever he can find it. And everything he wins, he donates to charity, or he'll buy like thousands of dollars worth of Lego sets and donate them to charity because
I know.
that's who he is. That's what he likes to do.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of stigma in general around like rock and metal artists about them being, oh, well, you're a Satanist. Oh, well, like, you're like really mean. And then like you meet them in person, they're just like the nicest people. Even the fans are just like the nicest fans I think I've ever met. Like I love them. They're just so like, they're there for the music, and people think it's such like a angry, evil thing. Like I remember I got a lot of comments on like my other music videos like, don't go to the dark side. Don't be a witch, Victoria. And I'm like, okay. Stop. Like, you know, I'm Christian and I'm a metal artist, and I don't know, there's just a lot of stigma around us being all, you know, evil and angsty and stuff, but it's really not true. It's not true.
For the most part, absolutely is not true. But I think a lot of reason why that stigma exists is when you take a look at the people that are considered rock stars, like the ones that a lot of people are going to just absolutely know every bit about because of how prevalent they were at one time in pop culture. Think about the guys in Motley Crue. I mean, watch the movie The Dirt, and it's like, you don't think these guys are, you know, the best people ever. Ozzy Osbourne, his whole entire, he stands on his own. I mean, the Prince of Darkness, come on, like that reputation's gonna supersede him. Then I won't even go on anything that's been going on recently, but Marilyn Manson would also fall into that category as well. However, you take a look at a lot of the artists that are especially real prevalent now. It's like you go out and see, you know, run into these people on the street, and it's just they're the most like regular people you might think of ever. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And like, yeah, I mean, I get why there is that stigma, but you know, it's just really not true. And like I was saying before, even the fans, like, you know, you would have found this as well. Like they're so just respectful and just so like they respect you for the art. Like they're there to see you play, and they're like when we played that Elvide show, like no one knew who we were at the time because that was our first live show, you know. And like they were there all like, and they respected our music and they respected our art, and we got a bunch of new fans from it. And you know, they're just there for the music, and that's what I love about being in this genre, because everyone's just there for the music.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to a live show, a lot of people, especially in the genre with rock and metal, a lot of people, not everyone again, but a lot of people will go to the show and will try and see as many bands on that bill as possible, because you never know who some of those opening bands are. Now, at times, that can't always happen. Like myself, when I went to go and see Rise Against the Machine before we shot this, I wasn't able to get down to the venue until halfway through the second band's set.
Oh.
It sucked, but it was either do that or don't go to the show at all. So it's like, well, if I have to miss out in the first half of the show, but I get to go see it, whatever. However, if I'm going to go and see a show, it's like, I'm going to try and go and see every single band as possible, because you don't know who I might end up seeing. I don't know who I might end up liking. And all of a sudden, it's kind of cool if I go and see a band, say they open up on this tour one time, and then 2 years later, they're on a massive headline US run. It's like, hey, I saw you guys when you were just opening up for that band. Hey, how cool is that?
Well, there's like, when I saw Camelot, there was a band that was supporting him, Valhalla. They're an Aussie band from Sydney. I'm pretty sure they're from Sydney. And, you know, they're not super huge, but like I'm a huge fan of them because I saw them at that Camelot show, you know, like, and that's how your fan base grows, and that's how it works. And I think it's really beautiful that the community wants to support these artists that aren't as huge. And I even noticed, like, because we were touring with two bands, Salem and Carmaria, but there were other bands that were like popping on every night to fill the spaces. And like just discovering new bands in different towns and different cities, it was really exciting for me as well as an artist. And just to see like what was out there, because there's so many different types of bands, and there's so many good, like amazing, great bands that you don't even know are out there until you go and see it. Like it's crazy.
No, absolutely. You don't know how many great bands I have found by doing it. You don't know how many great bands I have found by just bringing bands on the podcast that I just find out of nowhere. I'm like, well, let's give them a shot. Let's listen. Let's see what happens. All of a sudden, the week after I listen to them, here we are with something like, I mean, that's pretty much what happened the first time I interviewed you. It's like, I just found your music randomly on Instagram somewhere. I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's make this happen. And now it's a year and a half later, and we're doing it again.
we're doing it again. Hey, but thank you so much. And that's really good of you as well to like give like people opportunities, because like it's because of like these podcasts and like these interviews that we get opportunities and we kind of get out there and we get to share our music with more people. So like I think a lot of us, like even like from these bands that I met at these shows, we were all very grateful for these people that came out to support us and these interviews and these reviews that people put out, because they really help us. They really, really do.
It's like the worst that it's going to do is it's going to get your name into the minds of people, because all of a sudden it pops up somewhere. It's like, okay, I got to go check this out. We'll see what happens. And it could be from anything. It could be from someone doing a music review, someone going to see a show and all of a sudden like taking a cool picture, putting it online, or even from your aspect, it could be just some wacky and just absolutely out of the box Instagram ad that all of a sudden people look at. It's like every time this Instagram ad pops up, they don't scroll past it. They want to watch like this whole entire 30-second ad. It's like, okay, now it's kind of burned in their memory. And then next thing it's like, okay, I got to click on this. I got to see what this band is actually about. I've seen that happen before. That's how I found out about the band First and Forever. They had the coolest Instagram ad ever. I'm just like, okay, I want to talk to these guys in the podcast. Let's make it happen. I'm just like, if there's an emo revival in the US, it's because those guys are going to make it happen.
Please bring back emo music. Do it. I need it. I need it back. Like, I know a lot of, I was going to say, like, since you were talking about the emo music revival, there's a lot of that kind of coming back in our generation now, which helps us too. Like, even with like fashion and like, you know, people are listening to like Black Veil Brides again, and people are listening to like, you know, Falling in Reverse again. It's all coming back, and that helps me too, especially in like my age group, in like early 20s, like late teens, you know. It was funny that you mentioned that, because I was going to mention that, and that really helps too. So,
well, just using kind of Victoria K, and I'm going to kind of use a comparison with Evanescence at this point as well, because when I think about, you know, when emo was real prevalent, think like 2004, 2005, 6, 7, you take a look at some of the bands that are there, and some of the more symphonic bands, especially Evanescence, were rather popular at that time, given just the style that they were working with. It had more of that symphonic, had a little bit more of this gothic tone to it as well, which really fit well within the whole entire emo feel. And then in terms of style, wardrobe, just kind of everything around that culture, they all kind of clashed in that sort of same way. So there was a lot of mixture being able to go on, which is why, as we're recording this, even though the tour will be over by that point, Evanescence and Hailstorm are on this massive US run where they're selling out these massively large venues pretty much every single night. And again, this is Evanescence we're also talking about here. So this works in with this kind of more emo revival that we're seeing, because we're starting to get, you know, see TikTok really kind of take to it. We're starting to see pop punk get this resurgence, which will end up kind of correlating into that. All of a sudden, emo is becoming more of a accepted thing in terms of people my age, you know, mid-20s, late 20s, potentially even early 30s, because, hey, it's kind of like we're the elder emos now, even though I don't really care for that term whatsoever, but I know people like it, so I'm just going to roll with it, I guess, whatever. However, you see something like My Chemical Romance, they're constantly like, oh, we got to reschedule these tour dates, but the fact that, you know, we know that they're going to be coming back at some point, it just adds this whole entire mystique and vibrato, like, it's a cool thing. So now it's kind of like the cool thing to do, and all of a sudden, people are going to start getting into these other newer bands, hopefully they do, that have a sound that isn't the same as what they used to from this like emo kind of genre that they listened to back in the mid-2000s, but has that same feel to it.
Yeah, like emo, like Machine Gun Kelly, he's doing that pop punk thing now. Like Youngblood's become super pop. Like I don't listen to them that much, but they're becoming super popular. And like I noticed like a lot of people that I used to hang around with, like even people that used to bully me for listening to like Slipknot, are like, oh, I love Slipknot now. And I'm like, oh, do you? Is that what's happening now? Like the changing culture, it's there and it's coming. And I'm very happy about it, because it really helps bands like us that, you know, get more into the public eye.
Oh, absolutely. The more that happens, the more those bands are going to end up being known, and then all of a sudden, the more those bands are going to end up being able to play not only these bigger venues in the countries that they currently reside in, but they're going to have more chances to travel and perform internationally. And I mean, that's with US bands going over to Europe, European bands going over to the US, Australian bands going everywhere because let's be honest, when it comes to Australian plus metal always equals good.
True. Like Australia has like they've had a lot of success like more recently with people, but like Australia as well with a lot of music artists, like you don't really know a lot of music artists from Australia, but like there's a lot of good bands that come out of here. And like In Heart's Wake is a really good Australian band. I don't know if you know who they are.
I do know who they
But
are.
yeah, you do. I love
Yeah.
In Heart's Wake, and I'm like, there's so many good Aussie artists, and they just need to leave. They need to leave the country. They got to go to Europe, go to America. But the Australian music scene is actually, it's really, really good here, and I'm really grateful for it. And like lately, I've noticed I've been building more of a fan base in Australia because whereas before it was like more in like the Scandinavian countries. So it always helps. It does help actually having a fan base in Australia to get over to Europe, you know.
Yeah, because even though you might have that fan base already built over towards Europe, especially just with the style of music and with the way the internet is, but being able to have this sort of fan base at home where when you go out and play those live shows, it's like, hey, look at how many people we played for here. Look at the people that actually, when they're getting a chance to see us, look at how they're responding to us. Now we're going to take this over to Europe and you're going to respond the same way. So why don't you book us on a couple of tour dates, man?
Exactly. That's how it works. But that's also good. Like with this pandemic, we've had, because we did have like a few opportunities to go over to Europe and do some stuff there. But because of this pandemic, we're kind of like stuck in the country. And it worked out for the better because now we have like a better Australian following, which is kind of what we were aiming for in the first place. Because in all honesty, it's our home country, you know. We love Australia and like, it's always like we want to have fans in our own country because we want to play music in our own country because we love it, you know. It's always better to have that kind of around.
No, absolutely. But also, we do want you to come over to the U.S. at some point as well.
I want to come to the U.S.
So, I mean, for me personally, I want bands like I want Make Them Suffer, I want Polaris, I want Victoria K, I want Patient 67, I want Stepson.
Yeah.
There's probably like 5 or 10 others that I miss off the top of my head right now, but those are the ones that I'm thinking. And I'm like, can you guys come over to the U.S. like when it's available, please?
Oh, one day I'd love to come over to play the U.S. Like. I'd love to play Nashville, actually. I really want to see what's up with Nashville. I've got a friend that's been over to Nashville a few times. She's a country artist. And every time she goes, she's like, it was the most amazing experience I think I've had. Because that's like the music hub, from what I've heard.
For country music, it is.
For country music. Because I've been told that Nashville is really good for like music.
For music in general, yes. But I mean, it's gonna be a lot easier if it's for country music, just based on where it is. Again, when it comes to your style of music, I'm going to be completely honest with you. When it comes to like the areas of the country where a lot more people are going to be possibly getting into your style of music, it's going to be more in the northern part of the northeastern part of the country, the northern Midwest part of the country. So kind of think like the New York, Boston, Philadelphia.
Yeah, actually.
And then kind of closer towards where I am, like Milwaukee, Chicago specifically, kind of right around this area. It's like that's where a lot of like a lot of these like heavier bands kind of end up coming to. Also, Florida, because Florida's just insane.
No, Florida's got like it's very niche. Has good weather apparently, so I'll head over to Florida. But yeah, no, I'd love to play America, like New York. Amazing. Chicago, you know, because that does actually make more sense than playing in like Nashville and stuff. I still want to go to Nashville just to see what's going on, you know, just for, you know, an experience. But other places we'd love to play is like Scandinavia, obviously, Germany. Me and my guitarist, the whole tour were like, we're gonna go to Germany. Okay, so when we go to Germany, this crowd, we were planning our trip to Germany on tour. We just to get play in other countries and just see what's happening. I think because there's always been more of a scene for this style of music there. It's not really recognized as much in Australia, but we have got like really good feedback here. So I'm very proud of that. Very happy, very proud to be Australian and to get that, like, you know, for it to resonate in my own country.
And even bringing back to something we talked about earlier when it comes to just taking a look at where the pandemic was, like, okay, what can we do with what we have now? Focusing on building up this fan base in Australia is an incredibly smart thing to do, because now that you're playing live shows, you're having these people come out not only because they want to see you, but also because, hey, it's something to do. I'm not going to lie, that's kind of another big thing, but it just adds to the fact that people that want to go and see you play are going to come out and see you play. But there's going to be other people that just like, either friends that just like, hey, what are we doing tonight? Well, we're going to go see this band, Victoria K, play. Ooh, can I come too? I just want to get outside.
That's kind of what was happening as well. Like I was talking to people after the shows. Like we played the show in Canberra on a Monday night. Like that normally doesn't go down well, but it went down pretty well. And it was a Monday night. So that was probably one of our most successful shows, because that was the last one as well. That's when everyone was like, oh, it's the last show. We'll kind of just wing it. We'll see what happens. We'll have fun with it. And that was a really, really fun show to play. But like we had people like that heard us in sound check that were just like at the bar, and they're like, oh, we came back to see you because we were at sound check and we just wanted to come out tonight. And we're like, oh, thanks. You know, you don't know where you're going to find these people, but like you were saying, it's a really good time to get out now because people just want to see music and just to be out.
Yeah, after being, shut away from live music for either a year to a year and a half, depending upon where you are in the world, it's just something where you had a chance to go and do it. Hell, I got one of my friends who, when I met her, she did not like really any kind of music that I liked. In September, her and I went to go and see 3 separate concerts together. One was because I turned her into a huge Falling in Reverse fan, and I found out they're going to be playing here in Milwaukee, like on a one-off show. I'm just like, you got to come down here. And then she stayed the next day because she's like, well, is anyone cool playing the next day? And I'm just like, well, I'm going to see Rise Against the next day. And I'm not going to, stop anything for that. She's like, oh, I'm going to come with you. Cool. 2 weeks later, she ditched out early on a wedding because she wanted to go and see Ice Nine Kills with me in her hometown. I'm just like, this is what I'm fucking talking about. And all of a sudden she's like, I'm loving all these bands. I'm like, as you should. But this is awesome. And a lot of other people are going to end up doing something like that because you have a chance to go out. And why not be able to go out, go with your friends, see some music, listen to some music that you might not necessarily know anything about, but you never know. It might just hit you in a certain way. And all of a sudden you might be like, I got to listen to more and more of this. I got to go see more and more of this. And next thing you know, you're going to end up being like me, going to see live shows 2 to 3 times a week. Even when you feel like, you're never going to be able to make that show, you somehow get up out of bed, get in your car, drive 90 miles south, and end up going absolutely ape crazy in a mosh pit for an hour and a half. It's going to happen, and it's worth it.
It's worth it. You got to do it. But like I know I've made like one of my best friends that I met this year, like he introduced me to Ice Nine Kills, and he introduced me to like Falling in Reverse, and I was like, ooh, kind of like this. And because I was in lockdown, I had nothing better to do, so I kind of binged these bands and I became obsessed. So because when I listen to new bands, I become obsessed with new bands, and like I listen to them like on repeat constantly, and that also helps like my sound, like because this new record that we're working on, it's got more influence from like those bands as well. It's got like a little bit more of a proggy thing going on, but also still got the symphonic stuff. But yeah, there's so many bands, dude. There's so many bands that you got to listen to, and like this is the best time to go see bands now. I just got to get out and see more music.
So now you're saying like you got into Ice Nine Kills and Falling in Reverse. I'm just like, man, that's why you should come over to the U.S. and like play a couple of shows here, because I swear if all of a sudden like you were in the same area that around where I was, all of a sudden it's like, okay, get the day off. Okay, there's a live show happening here. All right, I got 2 tickets. You're getting the other one. Let's go make it happen.
Yay! Oh my god, yeah. I just gotta get out of the country and go see music, because not many bands come here anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing really for heaps of bands in Australia. Like when I saw Evanescence, they hadn't been here since like 2004. And I saw them in like 2019. So that says a lot. That does say a lot, But yeah, no, I want to try get out, like when we travel, like to see bands, like just local bands as well, man. I love seeing local bands and like seeing what they're about, because I just like supporting local artists, because I'm like an artist myself, and I'm just trying to climb my way, just put my music out there, and just all the support from people. And I want to give that support to people because it makes me feel good, and I want to make other people feel good. So there we go.
And then if you continue to just support the local scene as well, or support these smaller bands as well, what's going to happen is they're going to end up supporting you. You're going to end up creating this more community of people that just like supporting people that have the same goals and the same vision, the same just aspirations that they do. And next thing you know, you're going to create this, instead of just this like local regional music scene, you create this more of this like worldwide local scene. Because I know a lot of bands, especially the ones I talk to in the like Southern Virginia, Eastern North Carolina area of the United States, they've got such this like tight knit local group that all of a sudden one band starts doing well. Next thing you know, where all those bands going? All these bands are going to everybody's shows. Like they're just constantly supporting them. It's one of the coolest things ever.
Well, like with Australia as well, you know, like all of Australia, we kind of have this close thing. Like you have your Melbourne bands, obviously, but we've like played more shows with bands outside of Melbourne because of this tour. Like the other two bands that we went on tour with, Salem and Come Area, like we became so close. It was like a little family over like, because we were seeing each other for like every day, all day, every day. And because we're all so similar, we all have like similar goals, similar music taste, similar aspirations. Like it's fast friends, and 100% I would get both of them to do shows with me again. Because, you know, I like them as people, and it's kind of that little community and that connection that you get from doing these shows, and it's just beautiful. And I'm so grateful for that.
And you create that connection, that family, and then you keep that positive relationship. And this goes for any band as well. It's just as those bands continue to grow, you're going to be still there to support them as well. And all of a sudden, you know, they could potentially get bigger in front of you. That's fine. You know, I'm not saying in front of you is like they're going to, you know, step on you. It's just like they're going to become a little bit more prevalent you at that point in time. Next thing you know, all of a sudden, they're going to be playing a couple of more, you know, local shows. They've got a lot more people coming out there looking for a couple of people maybe to open up a show for them. They're going to look at you right away and be like, hey, you're our family. Come open up for us. Why not? And you're going to be like, hell yeah, open up for you. And then you get a huge crowd to open up for. And next thing you know, you're the next one up. It's just kind of just cyclical thing where it's like, okay, we're going to all help each other grow, because if we keep trying to look at this as a competition, we're not going to get anywhere. If we look at this as a family, one group succeeds, we all succeed, we all support them. All of a sudden, that support and that success can somewhat trickle down a little bit to us, because now there's more eyes, more ears on what this scene is doing. And next thing you know, all of a sudden 2 or 3 more bands might pop off out of nowhere, because now all the eyes and the ears are on them, and people could really get behind a couple of those.
Yeah, exactly. Like you do find those bands that are a little bit competitive and stuff that you work with, but then in the end you just don't end up working with them again because the vibes aren't there. But like I said, with these, like I'm playing with more bands in like January and February because we're going to like different areas. But like with these bands that I met here in New South Wales and Canberra, like they're friends. We made friends for life, and we're always going to call on them if we need anything, you know, because you trust them and like you enjoy being around them, and it just helps. And it's good to have that mindset of, you know, you don't want to be competitive. Like if you're competitive, it's not going to help anybody. It's not like people are just going to stop booking you because they just don't like being around you. It's kind of, that's how it ends up being. So that's why we've always tried to keep that mindset of we're just going to support everyone. You know, there's no jealousy, because what's the point? It just doesn't work out for anybody.
It's like, I get competition can be in people's nature. It's totally an understandable thing. When it comes to your like local music scene, though, or trying to build up like the genre of music that you're within, it's treat it like a family and build up your family. Don't try and tear everyone down, because if you try and tear everyone down to get on top of that, you might succeed in that, but by doing that, I mean, you're going to be so much lower than if you would have worked alongside them, because you might be the best band in the world, but would people want to work with you if people want to go and see you and people want to, you know, take part in what you're doing, if no one wants to work with you?
Exactly.
Think about it.
Exactly. You got to, you know, you just got to be friendly. And that's just, I mean, we're all like, I'm glad like with my band as well, we're all just good people, you know, and we just treat everyone like they're our mates. It's just, why not? You know, why not? Why just be a good person and good things will come back. That's like the mindset that I've always tried to keep. Just support everybody, because like, you know, everyone's just trying to do the same thing that you're doing, you know. Just
make sure that when karma comes around, it comes around for good.
Yeah, hopefully, because karma's a bitch, and we got to.
Yes, she is.
And I swear, is that okay?
Yes, it fucking is okay.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I didn't know if I could have recorded it. But yeah, no, because karma's a bitch, and karma can like, it can come and slap you in the face. And I very much believe in karma. So we just try to put, good energy out into the world and it comes back. That's the same when you're on stage. You try to put good energy out when you're on stage and you feed off that energy. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I've seen bands, for the most part, when it comes to rock and metal, if they're putting out just this intense energy, this fantastic, but it's positive energy, the best things come from it. Hell, this was back in September at Blue Ridge Rock Fest. I got a chance to see Bad Flower for like the second time that year, and their lead singer, Josh, was sick. His voice was really hoarse, and they came out and told us before, and like, he's playing the show because he doesn't want to disappoint the fans. But just so you know, he might not be on top of his game because of this. They told us that right away. All the fans were like, okay, we now understand the situation. And if he's going to come out and play, all we care about is that he's going to try. That's all we care about. And I couldn't really tell that he was sick at all. Like, he tried his damnedest. And it was... the crowd energy was fantastic because he was trying his best and we were going to respond in kind. You're going to give us your best. We got to give you our best. I have seen sometimes where bands are just like, their energy is just like, they present this energy of like, they're just there to kind of like play the show and get out of there, kind of just, get paid and go. Or if something negative happens, they let it affect their show entirely and then they get this negative attitude. Oh God, can you feel that in the crowd? And does that crowd turn fast?
It does. And like, of course you have hiccups during the show. Like, that happens. Like, it's never going to be perfect. But you keep up the energy during the show. And the audience doesn't even notice. Like, I know sometimes like when we're backstage, we're like, oh, I stuffed this up. Oh, but like the audience doesn't give a shit. They don't care. They still loved it. And that's all that matters. Like, the audience tells you how you're doing. And you got to kind of take yourself, like, as much as you want to put on the best show, and it's great to be critical of yourself. I'm very critical of myself when I'm on stage. But, like, you got to kind of take yourself out of it because it's not about you anymore. It's about them. And it's about, you're doing it for them as much as you're doing it for your own enjoyment. You're doing it for them and to give them the best experience that they can possibly get, because that only helps you more. And, I enjoy seeing the audience have a great time because that's what I do it for.
It's if you're making it sure that we have the best time, we're going to make sure that you enjoy it just as much because we're going to respond in kind. And if something does go wrong, because there are times I've seen things go a little awry and all of a sudden the band just literally goes with the flow and just kind of makes it a part of the show. Those are the ones where we're just like, you guys, we like you guys because we understand that mistakes are going to happen, but we're going to respond in kind of the way that you're going to respond because we're all paying attention to what you're doing. Hell, I saw somebody throw up something on the stage when I saw A Day to Remember, and Jeremy called out, he's like, I've seen so many random things get thrown up to me on stage, but here in Milwaukee, this is the first time this has ever happened. Picks up, whose passport is this?
Oh.
He opens it up and he calls out the person's name. He's like, is this person in the audience? And you see the guy throw his hand. He's like, did you throw this up here? Apparently the guy had lost it and someone was trying to get back to him. They didn't know how, so they threw it up on stage. They're like, you throw a passport up on stage, just they're bound to actually recognize it. And it actually happened, so we got it back to him. It's like, okay, that is a weird mishap that happens, but everyone's in such a happy mood after that. And I think they had like 2 more songs up, but everyone's just like, okay, this is cool. Like, we're not losing this. But it's that kind of energy, that kind of just improvisation when things don't go as planned that can make those shows just the most memorable ever.
Yeah, sure. And like, that's similar to something that I saw with Camelot. Someone threw their shoe on stage and then the singer, he picks up, he goes, what's the point of this? He goes, do you want your shoe back? And the whole like audience started like chanting shoe it. And he's like, I don't know what this means. What does this mean? He's holding the shoe. He's like all confused with his like Swedish accent. He's like, what? Huh? And he's talking to the band. Everyone was like pissing themselves laughing. And that's what makes the shows special, those like moments. And that's what I'm trying to work on, like getting that, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I mean, it's going to take time and spontaneity to make that happen. But if you're going to be willing on working on more of just, being open to what's happening and kind of just, reacting on your feet when something crazy happens, and not like reacting positively, not just like getting frustrated. Because I'll even throw in another one, because you talk about how you binge Falling in Reverse, because this is from that show I took my friend to, because we were at Summerfest here in Milwaukee, and all the stages have these giant benches right by, like, in front of them. So you can't really, like, mosh or go crazy or anything, because everyone has to stand on these benches. We've tried to tip the benches up before. I have photographic evidence from an August Burns Red show that we tried to do that. Security was not very happy with us, but we were only trying to do it because we were going to make it safer if we had the benches up and gave people a place to mosh instead of people falling all over each other on top of these benches. All of a sudden, Ronnie's looking out in the crowd. He's like, "You guys aren't moving that much. Wait, are you guys on benches?" And we're all like, yeah. He's like, "Well, I would tell you to pick up those benches and move, but I'm not going to because I do not want to get sued." And everyone's just like, "Okay, at least you recognize the problem that we have, but at least you're telling us why you're not going to do it." It's like, okay, now we're having a laugh about it. It's like, okay, now everything is kind of normal of that, if in a way. And everyone's kind of in a better mood because at least the artist recognizes the problems that we have out here based on the limitations that the venue's providing us.
Exactly. It's about the audience, like I was saying. Similar, like, we did have one moment in the Canberra show, because by that time everyone was really good friends. You know, all the bands were really good friends. And it wasn't the biggest audience because it was a Monday night, but like it was like the night before we had a Sydney show which was sold out. It was amazing at the Crowbar in Sydney. Really awesome venue, but it had the same energy because we put the same energy into it. But it was during our last song. We have this one of the new songs from the new album. It goes for like 7 minutes. And we were playing it. And we had this kind of like moment where I kind of speak to the audience. I speak in ancient Greek. It's like a monologue thing. And then like the keyboardist from Area, he comes on stage and he has like a hood that he wears. So he kind of looks like a druid. He had all these shots and he was walking around. Everyone was laughing. I thought they were laughing at me. And I was like, "Oh no, what did I do wrong?" He hands the shots to everyone, and because like I can't drink alcohol yet, he hands me a glass of water, and then like he's on stage, he takes the shot, everyone's like, "Yeah!" And then we continue, and I was like, "What just happened?" I don't know. I didn't take any like notice to it, but then I mentioned it when I spoke, and everyone was like getting into it, and it was a good moment. It was a very heartfelt moment for everybody, you know. And it's moments like that make shows special.
Yeah, it's stuff like that people are going to remember, with just some of the crazy things that happen where all of a sudden, here comes this guy looking like a druid. What the hell does he have there? Oh, they're taking shots? Yeah!
Yeah! But no, I didn't take a shot. I had water.
It's like anytime when it comes to Rockman, all of a sudden you get like, yeah, beer, yeah, liquor, woo! Of course, people are going to go nuts.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then, like, I know in Area's set as well, they brought sombreros up on stage. My guitarist ran on stage and put sombreros on their heads just to lighten the mood, you know. And then right before Area's set as well, the drummer, he comes up to me, he goes, "Victoria." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Come on stage and just sing the last song with us. Just do it. No one else knows. It'll be really fun." And I'm like, "I don't even know the song." And he sent me the lyrics. I was like learning the lyrics throughout their set. I was like, "Okay, I can do this. And I walk up and like I take the keyboard player's microphone because he sings as well. And they were all looking at me like, "What's going on?" And then it was like a really sweet moment. Like we stuffed it up at the end, like, but no one noticed. But it's like, you know, it was just a really fun show in Canberra on a Monday night. We loved it. It was really great. And that's also about the relationships that you make. It makes the shows more fun, like when you're touring with other people.
Yeah, because when you're touring with other people and all of a sudden you get the cool moments where you're able to just to work within the other bands on stage and bring some of this cool stuff out to happen. You never know what might happen, but all of us, we're just going to get super excited when, you know, you're going to see something crazy that you're never going to see anywhere else, just because, oh, this band's on tour with this package and all of a sudden they became friends, and now Victoria K is going to come out and sing one of the songs with the bands. Like, how cool is that? You're not expecting that.
Before I went on stage too, I was like learning it throughout their set. I was like, "Okay, I can do this. I can do it. It's okay. It's fine." But you know, and people loved it. Like even like after the show, like we were talking because we like to talk to the audience and stuff. And they were like, "We could just see how much fun you guys were all having up on stage, you know." And we loved it. We had so much fun, and like that makes me, you know, really like it makes me feel good because I know that I've given the audience an experience that they're never going to forget. And that's like all you have to aim to do. You just have to aim to give the audience an experience, you know, that they're going to enjoy and they're going to keep with them for the rest of, you know, for a couple of days.
Or at the worst, it's, you know, this was always what I would have said before the whole entire pandemic would have been, you go to work the next day and people are going to ask you what you did that night and you're going to end up talking more specifics about the show. Now it's just like, well, maybe you're going to do it on like one of your work calls or something like that if you're still working from home. I mean, that's kind of what happens to me. It's if my full-time job, it's like, yeah, Kevin, what'd you do this weekend? I'm like, let me tell you guys.
I actually did stuff this weekend. What did you do this weekend?
It got to a point. This was back in middle of October. It got to a point where it was, okay, Kevin, how bad did you get hurt at a concert this week?
I know, it just becomes normal. It's fine. I love how they all know that as well. They're all just like, so like, you know, are you okay after this weekend? Did anything happen? And you're just like, yeah.
Well, I started telling about all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, when they really started asking that was after I told them about the broken finger in the mosh pit, and then I didn't stop.
Oh, maybe you told me about that.
Yep, just done. Good, let's go.
No, I could never. I'm too squeamish for that. I couldn't.
Hey, it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was worth it.
It was worth it. Yeah.
But going back to some of like the live shows that you played as well. So after you're done with your live set, did you like end up, because you said you were talking to some of the fans, did you like stay around just the area? Did you stay around like the merch table and just actually connect with these people? Or how did you end up doing something like that?
Oh, okay. Well, because we played these, like, some of the venues were smaller, some of them were larger, but all of them, I wasn't headlining. Well, the last two shows, me and Camaria, we kind of co-headlined, if that makes sense. But I never was the last band to play. And we always have to stay afterwards anyway to pack up our gear. But, you know, I stay and I watch all the bands. And, like, afterwards, we kind of just, like, we go into the audience to watch the other bands that are playing. And then people come up to you, they talk to you. And we go into the merch table just to see what's happening. People go, like, they ask you to sign things and they talk to you for ages. Other bands talk to you. And it's just, yeah, we kind of just, like, hang out with the audience, you know, see what they're up to. It's just, you become part of the audience, and that's how you make those like really close connections with them. So that's kind of how we do that. We just hang out in the audience.
Well, especially when it comes to trying to build up more of that local scene for yourself in Australia, that's something that you really have to do and do well, because it not only gives people more of this feeling of kind of affirmation that they're connecting with the band and that you're thankful that they're, you know, fans of the band, they're connecting with it, because now they actually see you there. They're actually able to interact with you, and you're able to just show your gratitude. It's like, hey, thanks for coming out to support us. And not just being that, not just like, you know, being on Instagram, someone gives you an like insane long comment, and then you get every comment like, thank you. No, you're actually able to curate this stuff and actually be able to connect with these people on a different level. Then being in the crowd for these shows, people are able to see more of this, you know, connect with you just as a person. It's like,
yeah,
she's being able to check out these shows as well. She's enjoying them just like we are. Hell yeah.
And all of us did that. Like, all the bands did that. We all like to hang out in the audience. And like, because I love talking to them as well. You know, I like meeting new people. You meet a lot of cool people at these shows as well, especially the local ones, you know, a lot of weird, different people. And like, I love it. I love like the different walks of life that you meet. And I just like connecting with the audience like that more, you know. Like, I met a few other people from different bands that were playing different nights, you know, and you meet more people in the scene. And I like connecting with the audience a lot more, because they're just people at the end of the day. You know, they enjoyed your music, you may as well. Because I am thankful. I'm very thankful, and I like to show my gratitude to them.
It's like, yeah, we're all just people at the end of the day. And there's certain bands that, you know, you would feel incredible if they were just come up and talk to you personally. And as fans, it's the bands that we like. We feel great when those bands want to come up and talk to us and we have conversations with them. I mean, even for myself, I feel like I get to have a couple of more conversations with some bands just based on what I do and how I connect with them. However, this was, I think that back in August, I was seeing three bands, and I've had all three of them on the podcast before. And after the first band went on, like they kind of loaded off. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, they finally get back to the merch show. But the second band goes on. I'm like, I'm gonna watch the second band. End up talking to the lead singer of the first band for the whole entire intermission. All of a sudden, headliner goes on. We're having a good time. I was talking to headliner for maybe 2 minutes because, yeah, I've had him on the podcast before twice. I'm like, yeah, let's talk and hang out. All of a sudden, there's just like maybe an 8-9-year-old kid there on a Wednesday night at a bar at 11:30 at night, because he wanted to see the band and his parents took him there. And the kid really wanted to talk to the band and take a picture. I had seen this kid before at a show a week beforehand for a different band, but he was there the whole entire night too till like 11:30. I'm just like, this kid likes this kind of music. All right. I'm like, this kid talking to this band now is more important than me talking to him. So I'm like, I'm going to take a step out of here. Kind of let the kid come in. I'm like, okay, you got this. I'm done. It's going to be more important for him to meet this band and be able to talk to him than it is me at this moment. So you know what? Make it happen, because
Beautiful.
all in all, everyone's going to enjoy that a lot more. Especially if all of a sudden you're going to get an 8-year-old kid to get his picture taken with all these different bands going like, it's like, come on. Everyone's going to love it.
We don't have stuff like that with like kids, because all of the shows that we play, they're 18 plus shows, because they are like, I know they're in bars and stuff in America, but I don't know if it's probably different here in Australia. But like, yeah, I've only ever played 18 plus shows ever since I was younger. Like I was 13 going into these like bars with all these grown men. I was like, oh no, playing these 18 plus shows. And like, because I looked a lot older than what I did when I was younger as well. Like they didn't kick me out, so I just stayed and watched the whole thing. And it was a really great experience for me. I was like, oh my God, I'm watching these bands. And I was like 12, 13, just making the most of it, you know. But as a kid, like being in that music scene, like being around adults, like it helps me for when I'm doing shows and stuff now, because I kind of already have that. It's already kind of ingrained in my psyche, like I know what's going to happen. So it does say it's good for kids when they go to shows like that.
I'll just wait for the first moment when all of a sudden you have like one of those little kids come up to you at a live show, just like loving your music, loving everything about it. You're going to remember like this part of the conversation. You're going to be like, I'm going to give this kid the time of day. Like we're going to have fun. Like whatever pictures you want to take. You just want to take a nice one. Cool. Oh, you're a little nervous. Oh, it's okay. Oh, you want to take a crazy one? Like just like making it look like you got me in a headlock or something? Hell yeah. Why not? It's fun.
But I love seeing kids that are into this type of music. Like my guitarist, she's a guitar teacher as well. She teaches. And she showed one of her students, like her really little students, one of our new songs. And he goes, this sounds like Dream Theater. And I'm like, you know Dream Theater? You're like 6, babe. That's awesome. I love that. But yeah, just like things like that. It's just beautiful. Just little kids getting into this music. It's awesome.
And one of the coolest parts too is especially with a lot of people that are a little bit more like kind of our age in the scene. We see those little kids kind of getting into the music, and we're just like, let it happen, honestly, because that's always a good thing. Hell, when I was at Blue Ridge Rock Fest, I was in the pit for Wage War. All right, because this is now again Wage War, and all of a sudden like there is this 6-year-old girl that all of a sudden ends up in the pit, and everyone looks. We're like, hold up. Everyone backed off because we're like, we're not letting any of this happen. Like, I don't know how she ended up in the pit, to be honest with you. I don't know how she ended up there.
Into the pit. How did... No.
I don't know how it all happened, but all of a sudden it was like, okay, there were a couple other like smaller kids that were in the crowd right by the pit but weren't in there. All of a sudden it's like, okay, they started coming in the middle. And it's like we kind of had our own like little kid pit, which was kind of cool. No one really got knocked down. It's like this little 6-year-old looked kind of timid. All of a sudden, like some of like the older kids, but not like, you know, the people like myself, like kind of like 11, 12 years old. They're like going like this, and she was kind of like bumping into them. They were like flying backwards. All of a sudden, here comes this big dude. Just comes up, like squats down next to her, goes like this. She just bumps into him. He jumps so far back. Everyone's just like, yeah!
Oh, no, that's so cute. Like, I see as well, like, other bands post, like, Arch Enemy and stuff. They have, like, little kids with, like, signs. And I'm like, just kids getting into this music. Like, I started listening to this type of music when I was, like, 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, like, 10, 11 years. And, like, it's just awesome. I don't know. Like, I went to a very, like, a Catholic school as well. So I kind of was looked a bit, like, I was looked down on it a little bit by other kids at the school. They're like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, you like metal? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Fight me. Literally fight me. What do you want from me? But it's great. It's beautiful. Like, I'm really glad that I got into it when I was young, because I wouldn't be here now. And I think, like, people that listen to it as well, like, I show it to some of my friends. They're like, I really like this. I'm like, yeah, you should listen to it more. Like, you know, it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful style of music that there's a lot of great artistry that goes into it, and people don't realize that until they listen to it. And that's why I think more people should listen to it.
Oh, absolutely. I think within rock and metal, there's a lot of stuff that it takes so much of this different artistic creativity and more of this metaphorical knowledge of understanding how different words play off with each other to really create something beautiful. I've been seeing this thing pop up recently on Facebook and Twitter, and it's still one of my favorite things. Saw a couple of years ago, but it's popping back up again. It's like, oh, here's the sentence is it's like I see a flower. Like this is, and how each different genre would like take it on, and everyone sounds ridiculous. All of a sudden, I get to the one that says rock music, and I look at the lyrics. I'm like, that's the first verse of "The Good Left Undone" by Rise Against. I'm like, I like instantly knew it. I'm just like, and it's the most well put together one of the whole entire thing. It's like they couldn't come up with anything for rock. Well, they had to take something that was already created because of how good it is. Like they couldn't come up with something on their own. It's like they had to take all the other ones. They wanted to make it look like what it actually would have been, and they made it look as ridiculous as possible. But no, when you get to rock metal, it's like we actually have to try. It's like you actually have to try something here. And they couldn't do it, so it's like we're gonna take from something that already exists.
That's funny, but like I think in all styles of music, like, you know, depending on the artist specifically, like you get people that write deep and metaphorical things. Like it depends on the artist, but I know in country music as well, there's a lot of that storytelling. You know, that kind of, it's great. That's why I like this style of music as well. It's a lot of storytelling. Like I know with the new album, it's more of a concept album, so we're doing it to tell a story, and you know, just using those words to play off with real word issues. Like it's a lot to think about, but it's what's really enjoyable. I'm a lit nerd. I'm a literature nerd. Like I read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft and stuff like that. But like, you know, and I like using those artists and those writers as inspiration on how to play off words. And I think that can be done in any genre, but I know what you mean by it's done a lot in the rock and metal genre. It's a prominent feature of it.
It is, and one thing I really think it takes a look into, I keep saying again because I think I've said this many times on different podcasts, but when it comes to rock and metal, it's, you listen to the lyrics and you listen to the instrumentals and just the tone, the pace, just how they interact with each other. It's an emotional journey through each and every song, and it's just guiding you through that each and every step of the way. Listen to a certain song and people are going to relate to it at the core emotion of it because everyone understands the core emotion of the song. The specifics behind it are going to be different due to the fact that we've all gone through different things in life based on where we grew up, how we grew up, maybe what religion our families are believe in or what you believe in, maybe just different experiences they've had. A lot of things are going to shape our specifics, but when we listen to a song and we all connect to it for a certain reason, it all boils down to the same core emotion. And within rock and metal, it was just the way the instrumentals are able to display that emotion, be able to connect you to that emotion just through the use of sound, and with how the lyrics are able to kind of also guide you through that in more of a metaphorical sense, to kind of be just like we're going to show you the path, but you're going to be the one that walks down it. It just really shows a lot of the power that the whole entire genre has and the creativity that is behind it.
Yeah, well, that's interesting what you were saying as well. Like everyone experiences songs differently depending on like how they've grown up and stuff. Like I've tried to do that with my music as well. Like I don't like to tell people what the songs are about. One thing I like, it kind of like, I don't hate it, but like when people go like and they explain what the songs are about on stage, I'm like, but that kind of takes the listener out of it. You know, it's kind of like you're telling them what the song means to them. That's why I don't like to announce what my songs are about. I like everyone to experience it for themselves and just kind of let the music and the lyrics, you know, resonate with them however it resonates with them.
Yeah. That does make a lot of sense. Again, just with the fact that it allows people to really let themselves kind of get into it. However, there are some times where, like, say a song has this real personal touch to it from something that you wrote, say it's super deep and super personal, and you might just want to, you know, let us know what that is, because we might not necessarily, if for those who have gone through something similar, they're going to really connect with the song on a whole different level. For those of us that did not go through that or something close to that, we're going to be able to potentially better understand the emotion, but even the pain that event caused. So it's something to really potentially even take a look into and really just understand just a whole difference of somebody
Yeah.
else.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, it depends on like the situation and the song, but you know, I don't like to tell them what all my songs are about. Like if like there is like songs like Forsaken, like in interviews and stuff, it has like more of a personal connection to me. So I do explain what they're about. But other songs, it's kind of like, I'm just gonna let you decide. Because that's what I wrote. I wrote it for you to decide what it's about, you know?
And then that's when I would go in and just do like, okay, let me listen to the song 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and all of a sudden try and figure out the meaning of it. And next thing you know, I've got like 10 sentences where I was trying to figure out what the meaning is.
Well, like it's funny because like I've had people like that I know that have listened to my music and they all have different interpretations of the songs. And I'm like, I would have never thought of that before. But like you do you. And it's great because I like it's good that people have been able to make that personal connection with it. And that's kind of what we're trying to achieve. Because that makes the song all that more special.
I'll say next to me, especially with the new album coming out, when you listen to people like talk about these songs and like what they think they mean, it's going to be something completely different than maybe what you had thought. But then again, take what you wrote it about, take that core emotion of it, and see if that core emotion at the base of the song matches up with what these other people are saying at their core emotion. Because we're all going to, it's like we all start from here. We all start from here. I might go this way over here. You might go that way. This person might go this way. This person might hit me straight in the face like this, but we all start from that same spot, and then we all branch off based off of how our brain relates that emotion through the experiences that we've had in life.
Exactly. Like, I know with this new album as well, like each song is about a different part of the story, but they're also kind of relating to like social topical things that like I'm personally passionate about. Like I have a song that's got a very feminist kind of lyrics to it, and then I've got a song that's more philosophical. Ooh, it talks about more like hit my hand, more social constructs. But you know, I just really like it when the audience connects to the songs themselves. I think it makes it special. But it's true what you were saying, how everyone kind of comes from this core feeling and they all branch out in different ways. It depends on how they relate to that feeling and how they connect to that feeling.
Exactly. So when it comes to this new album, because I don't want to not talk about this before we end up closing this one out, because like I said, the last time we went 3 hours, and I don't want to go that far over because, again, that can get a little bit too much. So when it comes to this new album, again, you said it kind of has a concept behind a story behind, or the story behind it. Don't give away the entire story, because I'd rather have people kind of just really get when it comes out, like you have to listen to really understand the story. But what's kind of like a teaser for what the album is really about? Like a little bit of a teaser, not like the full story, but like, maybe a little bit.
Well, so it's based off of myth, ancient myth, Greek mythology, because I'm Greek. I'm like, let's connect back to my roots. And because I've always been like really connected to that Greek music, and like you can kind of hear it in Haunting a little bit, some of the scales that I use. But I'm like, I want to make that more of a feature in the music, because I want to bring that out. So I was talking to my producer, and we're like, why don't we do a concept album based off of Greek mythology? And it's I probably should just say what the story is. It's the Hades and Persephone story, if you know that one. It's like when he kidnaps her and he takes her to the underworld to marry him. So Hades kidnaps Persephone, who's the goddess of spring, and takes her to Hades because he's in love with her, basically. And like it kind of, each song is just a different part of the story, what happens. There's a lot more detail in the story, obviously, but that's kind of basically the whole thing, what happens. But each song is about a different section of the story and how it connects to like what's happening in the real world. Because when the ancient Greeks, when they did have these myths and stuff, they all connected to what was happening in the real world, and they used these myths to explain the world around them. And that's something that I explored within the concept album. A lot of the songs are significantly longer. So I've got like one song that goes for like 8 minutes. We love it. But I wanted to explore different musical styles within this as well. Like there's some singing in ancient Greek. There's a lot of like ancient instruments, such as like a hammered dulcimer and a lyre and things like that. So it's got a different sound, but it's something that we wanted to explore.
So it's kind of like a concept album inside of a concept album, because you're bringing up a lot of these certain topics and you're going to be relating a lot to what's going on. However, the base of kind of like the progression of it is going to be the Hades and Persephone story. However, you're going to be bringing a lot of different things from the Greek culture in terms of different things with different musical instruments, different styles, and even speaking ancient Greek and singing ancient Greek on some of these. It is kind of like a concept album. It's like concept squared.
Concept squared. Concept squared. That's a really good way to explain it, actually. Yeah. So we just wanted to experience, like, create a new experience and like experiment with different ideas and stuff. Because it was kind of there in Essentia, like in Haunting, like I said, in Surreal. And Surreal, there was like those little like those melismas and stuff that and those scales, but it's something that I wanted to explore. Basically because of my deep-rooted Greek culture. Like, we love listening to Greek music because the language is beautiful and the scales are beautiful. And just to like bring that into my own music was something that I was really passionate about. Also, one thing that I tried to let go of when writing this album is like, I'm not going to try and specifically write a metal album as such. I'm just going to write music. It still came out like a metal album, but like, I'm just going to write music for the sake of the music and not try to make it anything. And that was like a really big learning and growing experience that I went through while writing this album.
So it's kind of like letting the album speak for itself and the writing process speak for itself, where however you wanted the song to sound, that's what was going to come out. You weren't going to try and contain it within this certain sound. Like, we have to make it sound like what the last record sounded. We have to make sure it sounds like in this like specific symphonic metal style. Just kind of letting it go as it does, and whatever other influences pop in there to potentially make this album grander and potentially make the style and the meanings and the emotions really hit more impactfully, really work out. Like you said, bring in some more of these instruments from, you know, the Greek culture, bringing in potential just influences from some bands that you really got into over the course of the past, you know, year and a half, really when you're stuck in lockdown and just binging Falling in Reverse and Ice Nine Kills. I mean, when it comes to wild, wacky, genre bending stuff, I mean, you're listening to Falling in Reverse, total makes sense. When it comes to, you know, really connecting certain stories to music, who better to listen to than Ice Nine Kills?
Literally, like, I'm obsessed with their new album as well. I've been like listening to it every day. I think I listen to it to hype me up. But yeah, no, they're really good at connecting like the lyrics and stuff, and it doesn't sound like they're trying too hard to do it as well.
Yeah, it doesn't sound campy, and it doesn't sound cheesy. It sounds like, I mean, there's some lines where it's like I listen like, really, but then again, it was like the whole entire thing with Hip to Be Scared with the bridge when they do the whole entire like Huey Lewis and they use it all, and they do all of that, the whole entire skit. I'm just like, normally in any other song, this makes no sense, and this is the dumbest decision ever. So good. But on Hip to Be Scared, that was the best decision they made.
I love it. I loved it. That's probably one of my favorite ones. That bridge. Oh, and the breakdown. It's magical. It's magical. I love it.
All right, Victoria, I got to ask you this question about that album. What is your favorite song off of Welcome to Horrorwood?
I don't know. I love Take Your Pick with Corpse Grinder. Like, come on. I also love Worst Vacation because it's like, it's very Rammstein-y. It reminds me a lot of Rammstein. Maybe because they're speaking in German, but like a lot of the industrial stuff that they put in the song, I'm like, oh, I can hear a little bit of Rammstein in that. I'm a fan. Wait, what's your favorite one?
Worst Vacation. When I heard that one, it was just something where I was listening. I'm just thinking, this has a lot of those industrial elements in it. This has a lot of this Rammstein feel to it. But I'm like, think about the movie. It's based off the movie Hostel, and it kind of takes place. I think it takes place in Germany. I'm just like, okay, this makes total amount of sense. They throw the German in there to really add to it. They throw some like these. They throw some of these lines even from the movie in there too. I'm just like, this is nuts, and just the energy of it is insane. I remember listening to the album for the first time, like, okay, you turn on I turned on, just was gonna run through the whole entire thing. They listened to the first track, it was like that like opening. I think I'm like, oh no, they had this weird intro track, and all of a sudden they go into Welcome to Horror. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Right when I heard that one, I'm like, did they create like this whole like different like Hollywood spoof track? And it sounds like if you literally took out Spencer Charnas and put Ronnie Radke in vocals, it would sound completely different, but it would still sound just as awesome. Like, that's it. If Ronnie's ever gonna cover a freaking Ice Nine Kill song, it's got to be Welcome to Horrorwood.
Oh, such a good song. I also love the shower scene. I love the movie Psycho. Like, I know it's really old and it's like not that scary, but it's such a classic. And that song, like I was like listening to it for the first time, I was like getting emotional. I was like, no, oh my God. And then like the breakdown where they have like the Alfred Hitchcock music in it as well. I'm like, this is so good. This is so good.
All right, now I got to ask you a question on that breakdown specifically and kind of related to your new music in a way with all the different instruments that you're going to be including with that kind of more classic Greek music culture style, just bringing some of those more elements in there. When it comes to the breakdown from the shower scene, when you heard the Alfred Hitchcock, psycho violins come in there, because I was nervous that they were going to overuse them or not use them at all. It's like they got to put them in there, but I'm afraid they're going to overuse them. Did you think they overused them, or do you think they hit the mark perfectly with them?
No, I thought it was awesome. I didn't think they overused them. I thought it was like the way they did it, like the way they timed it, like within the breakdown, like the rhythms that they used. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is beautiful. This is art. And I was like, oh, it's amazing. Like, it works together so well. It's kind of like the hip to be scared one. Like, they put that funky section in the middle, but it was just perfectly timed. And I was like, this is good stuff. This works really well.
It was perfectly timed, and again with the violins in the shower scene, for me, I'm like, they used them to the full advantage. They didn't overuse them, and they literally went with the whole entire like you could see it. You could see it. They didn't overplay on it either. Again, and then like the full funky, like 80s synthwave pop, he moves the news bridge. It's like, again, it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense, but it's timed perfectly. It fits so well with the story. It makes sense. So even when it comes like listening to some of that, especially Welcome to Horrorwood or the Silver Scream or Every Trick in the Book, whatever Ice Nine Kills album from the past 3 that you're listening to, just being able to kind of reverse engineer just how they end up taking the stories that they're working with, turn them into songs, and make it seem like you're actually like watching the movie or reading the book and just feeling the emotion of what you would watch into a whole song. It's kind of like doing the same thing with this whole entire Hades Persephone thing, where you're able to just kind of understand, okay, what are we going to need here to really bring out this whole entire part of the story, but also relate it to the emotion, relate to the topic that I'm trying to discuss in this song that relates to the current day.
Because like I don't want it to be like in your face, oh, this is about Hades and Persephone. Like I don't want it to be like the main focus of the album. But to get that story, one thing I did, like we looked at a translator. We went to a translator to help us who speaks ancient Greek, because I can't speak ancient Greek, obviously. But like we looked at a lot of the ancient texts, like the original text and prayers that they used to tell the story. And a lot of it, it's really beautiful. And like to use that and kind of incorporate it into the music, it really helps, And that's what I think Ice Nine Kills do really well. Like they use stuff from the original screenplays and they incorporate it into the text and like into the songs and into the text that they use. And it's really, really, it works really well. Like the synergy is amazing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, especially with this one, it's, bringing the synergies of the story and how it progresses, but also telling it in a way where you're focusing on the topics of these parts of the stories instead of just the story itself. So you're able to kind of work through those progressions, but also keep the focus on something on a much grander scale so that when people listen to it, they understand the concept of the things going on today. But then again, concept squared with it, where it follows this actual story where, I mean, I kept rambling on for like a couple like minutes ago, like about like trying to figure out what it was, but all of a sudden, boom, concept squared. That was what I'm going with. Like, I'm stuck on this now.
I love that. You should like trademark that, concept squared, and just take it and get paid so much for it for every time someone uses it. But
see, no, I would say I would do that, but I'm pretty sure all of a sudden I'm like, okay, like all of a sudden Victoria K, they're bringing up this whole entire thing. It's called a concept square. I'm like, I can't really, get on them for that, because when I came up with it, it was talking about their album, and I can't really go against that. Like, that's a weird spot.
As if you would do that. That's fine. I'll probably use that one time. I'll be like, so yeah, it's like a concept squared album. You'll be listening to the interview like, oh, okay, she used that now. No, I'll use it. I'm going to use that now.
Trust me, Victoria, it won't be like, oh, she used that. Now it'll be like, she used it! Yeah!
She used it! Oh my God, that's my thing! No, I love that. But, you know, just experimenting with new sounds and, like, new ideas. Because I know, like, Essentia, it's definitely not a concept album at all in the slightest. It's just a bunch of songs that were accumulated over a couple years. But they all kind of ended up fitting together in a way. They were all about like they were all very dark songs, to say the least. They were all kind of about like dark emotions and dark things that I'd noticed about people. But, you know, I think writing a concept album as well, it really helped in a way. It helped the writing process because it gives you like kind of like a line that you have to follow with all the songs, but they each have their own like individual thing about them, but you can tell they're part of the same story.
It's going to keep this one long, continuous flow. It's like, okay, here's this different topic, but why does everything feel like it's going in a straight line?
Oh,
well,
it
because
does.
it's following a story. Oh.
Yeah, we're following whoa. But that's why it really helped with the writing process, because I found, you know, I wasn't having, because like everyone gets writer's block, you know, it's the shittiest thing. It sucks. But I found that when writing this album, I didn't really get that because I kind of always knew where I was heading. Like I knew what the next part was going to be. I knew what was going to happen. And something that I like to experiment more in this album is making songs that aren't so linear. Like they go off on these tangents and they kind of never come back to the chorus. Everyone's like, oh, what happened there? You know, but it's just experimenting with different styles. But having the story really helped to guide that.
So again, it's kind of like if we have this, like if we imagine like a timeline, but all of a sudden it's like we start here and it's like the first song, it's like, okay, now it's going all the way up here. Then all of a sudden this one, it's like, okay, come to the next one. Now it's going all the way over here. But again, it all keeps on this continuous flow. But when you get to that song, it's going to dive into the concept of the message of the song. It's going to really focus on that, but it's also going to just lightly follow along the same line so that everything is connected in the same concept. However, where the concept squared comes in is because that is not the whole purpose of it. The purpose of it is to follow along that line and explore all these different emotions, ideas, and meanings along each step of the story.
Yeah, well, like I said, like we're still kind of finalizing, we're still kind of like finishing it off, but that's kind of the whole idea of this album, I guess.
So then
we don't know when it's going to be released. We have no idea when it's going to be released, but
darn.
Hey, well, you know, we're still kind of finishing it off and getting all that done. You know, it feels good to be making new music. That's what this lockdown was good for, you know.
Not sure when it's going to come out, but we want it now.
Well, you know what? We don't know when it's going to come out yet, but you know, still working on it, still plowing through it, and you know, we have performed one of the songs at our shows and we're going to try perform. It's good when you perform new songs that haven't been released at shows because you see how the audience reacts to them. You're like, oh, well, this could be a single, or maybe this one could be a single. We'll see what happens. And that's kind of what we're experimenting with as well, like working on these new ones to see what the public likes the most.
It's like a comedy routine. It's like any comic that goes up at a different local show. It's like they're just trying out different things to see what sticks and what doesn't with the audience. It's kind of like with what you're doing. Have all these different songs that you could work with. Okay, we're going to play this one tonight. We'll see how the audience reacts. Oh, it's a great reaction. Let's try it again. Oh, this could easily be a single. Bing, bang, boom. All of a sudden, boom, you get the first single right there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to work on. Like, even like the other bands that we played with, they were like, we really like that one. Oh, yeah, we really, and they were singing it. Oh my God. The other bands, like when we were like backstage in the green room, like I was just doing my makeup. They're like, sing the song, Victoria, sing it. And I'm like, this is a lot of pressure. Like, peer pressure. And they were singing our songs backstage. I'm like, maybe this could be a single. If they're into it this much, this could be a single. But, you know, we're just experimenting with different songs on stage and stuff.
You can see them backstage just like, sing it. And you're just like, I'm not done yet.
I'm doing my eyeshadow, stop. You bond a lot over makeup. I found that. Like, I was doing my makeup with the guys from Calm Area. And it's fast friends when you're really good at makeup, when you do makeup together, you know? When you help each other out, you do your foundation. It's a really cute moment. It's a really cute, fun moment. I really enjoyed that. You know?
Bonding through music, bonding through makeup. That's what rock and metal is all about.
It is. Oh my God. But like, you know, it was a little cute, fun moment. And like I said before, it's fast friends when you're very similar, and we all like makeup. So there we go. That's something else that we share.
Again, the whole entire thing just kind of comes full circle, adds to the whole entire family vibe of it. Now, Victoria, I'd love to keep talking to you because I know we could probably talk for like 3 hours at this point. However, I know in terms of like the podcast world, if we go much longer, it's going to be like, okay, people might start tuning out a little bit, like kind of like what happened last time. I'm sorry to say it that way, but of course that's kind of just what I saw with. But I mean, we went through a whole shit ton of stuff in terms of getting back up on stage, getting back to playing live shows, what it's like building your local Australian kind of like fan base as well. The Concept Squared album, and yes, I will even put it in the banner below. It's like their Concept Squared album coming ... soon.
We don't even know when it's coming. It's probably not going to be soon.
Soon-ish.
Sometime in the future. There we go. You know.
Coming your way ... sometime.
Sometime. One day. Hey.
One day it'll happen. So Victoria, as we bring this podcast to a close, similar to what happened the last time, I'll give you a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote the podcast. So right now, Victoria, floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Victoria Knight from Victoria K. I want to say thank you so much for having me on this podcast. Make sure you check out like more shows that are coming up in January and February. You can head to our website, Victoria K Official, and you can head over to our socials, just Victoria K Official. So thank you so much for having me again. It was really, really great. And yeah, we'll see you at our shows and we'll see you in the future.
Perfect way to end it. Now it's time for me to end with 3 separate things. So yes, if you're in Australia specifically, you're going to want to go and see Victoria K perform live when you get the chance, especially, you got January, February coming up. Hey, it's the summer months down there. We're up here in, the northern hemisphere freezing our asses off. You're down there in the sun. I am jealous of you right now. So you know what? Go enjoy some live music. Go and check out Victoria K. And if you need to find where they're playing, go take a look at their socials. Go follow along with them. Go listen to their music, stream their music, download music, buy some merch, and buy those live show tickets. And instead of having to search them up, like go to Google or go to like the Facebook search bar and be like, okay, how do we find this stuff up? Just look at the description of the podcast. I'm going to have links and labels for you to click and go to because it's going to make it a lot easier. I'm doing all the legwork for you here. All you have to do is click. That's all you got to do. Make it easy as possible for you. And now for number 2. I mean, we did a whole 3-hour podcast last time. This one might be close to 2 by the time we're all said and done. So, I mean, this is not going to be the only other time I have you on the podcast. I'd love to have you on the podcast again in the future, Victoria, as well. These conversations are always an absolute blast. Plus, I do have to see you perform live at least once, and hopefully it'll be over in Australia or the US. It doesn't matter where, but when I do, again, I'll make this a double like a option promise because. Okay. Whenever I have bands in the podcast I enjoy having on, I always make a certain promise. I'm not sure if I did this with you the last time, but I'm doing it with you now because I always love the bands on the podcast. Second time I've had you on, making the promise. So if you're able to at this point, when I see you perform live for the first time, my promise to you is first round's on me. However, the option also comes in where if for some reason, if you're over in the US, you got a day off somewhere and all of a sudden you're in an area that I'm, and there's some killer show that's happening, like say it's Falling in Reverse or Ice 9 Kills or Evanescence or something like that, just let me know. It's like, hey, we're going to be in this area close to you. It's like, okay, well, Ice 9 Kills is going to be there. Alrighty, I'll meet you at the show. It's like, what about a ticket? Nah, that's on me.
I love that option promise. Thank you.
Make it a good old dual option promise. So Victoria, on that note, ending this podcast with goodbye. That's a joke. We're not ending this with goodbye because that implies that everything is final. That is it last time. No. This ain't the last time. I got to make good on the promise. Plus, I got to have you back on the podcast again in the future when the Concept Squared album arrives or before that, whatever happens. So is this goodbye? No. This is see you later.
See you later.
Well, folks, that was my interview with Victoria K out of Australia. Once again, when it comes to finding Victoria K online, if you're in Australia, go and check them out on a live show in January and February of 2022. If you like symphonic metal or you like anything that they're potentially going to come up with, especially with, the Concept Squared album with all these different modern themes kind of surrounding the idea of the story of Hades and Persephone from Greek mythology, go check out Victoria K. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. It's all everywhere on social media. Stream the music, buy the music, download the music. All the links, Victoria K, in the description of the podcast below. Please also follow the Chord Progression Podcast on places like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube so you can watch these podcast videos because they're better than watch and just listen to. But if you just like to listen to, you can do that on Spotify Podcasts, iHeart Radio, and on Amazon. Links for everything in the description of the podcast below. So thank you for supporting the Chord Progression Podcast. If you're already liking our stuff, subscribe to our stuff, I want to give you a huge thank you and wish you the best 2022. If you are not, I would like to ask you to subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast. And if you do or if you don't, I would still like to wish you the best 2022 possible. Thank you to sponsors, Phoenix Fitness and Custom Debuts. And so on that note, that's going to be for me, guys. Thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I am every single one of them. The big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!